What do NFL coaches really think of Lamar Jackson? The safety domino is falling in the NFL. That and much more with a special guest on this episode of the Purple Rain Podcast. Yes, thank you for coming through to episode 247 of the Purple Rain Podcast. I'm going to throw it back right now with some of these names, right? The Pierre Desir episode, the Nate McCrary episode,
okay,
the Ardarius Washington for 1 year.
Talk to us.
One of my favorites, the Will Demps episode. I remember liking him growing up as a Ravens fan of the Purple Rain Podcast. Thank you all for coming through this episode on this lovely Friday Eve. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. You can follow this guy on Instagram, on Twitter at Sutton Def. Follow me on Instagram at simplyas10.prod and on Twitter at simplyas10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. So, how to tell you about the heat. It is hot out there. It is no joke.
My God.
And you want to keep yourself looking good, feeling good, no just unnecessary scratching going on. That's where Manscaped comes in. Go in there, get yourself something nice. Use code PRP, 20% off your whole order, and free international shipping. That's the kicker. Just letting y'all know. But first and foremost, Sutton, how is your week going, and how are we doing?
Man, I mean, the week's going pretty well. Like you said, it's hot as hell outside. But, other than that, I've been getting along pretty good. Now, talking about our Ravens, since it has been a little bit of time has passed since we've been alive, to be honest with you. It's been about, I don't know, at least like 10 plus days or so. So, I'm glad to be back. But the Ravens right now, the state of the Ravens is kind of like we're at that peculiar part of the off season where people just want something to talk about, right? And most recently, we've had like a lot of guys coming out the side of their necks, for lack of better words, just saying anything and everything about the Ravens. It is the perfect time of the year for that. By the way, before we get into anything else, you remember, Adam Rank, right? Works for NFL Network. Yeah. Normally does the schedule prediction before the season starts. Has he dropped his schedule prediction yet for the Ravens? His record prediction?
Not yet, because you would see it on Twitter.
Right, exactly. But I feel like that's coming. I feel like that's coming very, very soon. And it's going to be something egregious, just like it is every year. And, we prove them wrong pretty much every year. So that'll be cool. But other than that, like I said, I'm doing really well. Again, make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast, the Manscaped promo. You guys already know the drill. Before we get into anything else, of course, we will be remiss if we did not bring up the live Rain Gang chat. We got Mod K-Dog in the house. Salute to you. Says, yo, what's good, Rain Gang family, on this Friday Eve. Tanja Bowman in the house says, what up, PRP? Let's see who else we got in here. We got Lisa Ann in the building. Says, hey, Alex and Sutton Def, a week from today is my birthday. Okay. All right. I like it. So next Thursday's episode will be dedicated to Lisa. Yeah, that's what it is now. Yeah. Listen, if you're not watching this episode of the Purple Rain Podcast live and you happen to be part of the hashtag replay gang, thank you so much for joining this episode of the show. We do truly miss you here in the live. So make sure at some point, you try to make a live, because football season is right around the corner. And that's when it gets the most fun in these live streams, to be honest with you, because our reactions before and after games, training camp, let me shut up. Listen, today is a very special episode of the Purple Rain Podcast, right? Because this is the first time we've had a special guest. Yes, we're having a special guest join the Rain Gang today to chop it up about the Baltimore Ravens. And this is going to be awesome. I'm very excited to have him on. He's somebody who's very well respected in the Ravens community. And this is a first timer on the Purple Rain Podcast. This is no repeating guest. This is a first timer. So this is a big thing for us. This is a writer from the Ravens Wire and then also a podcaster from Locked On Ravens. This is Kevin Oestreicher. Let's go and bring him up.
There we go.
Man,
how we doing,
Kevin? Appreciate it. Yeah, first timer. Excited to be on the show. Excited for training camp to get started. I know we're kind of in the dog days of the off season. I think everybody's tired of it, and we just want to get to the football. So hurrying up, we're getting there.
Yeah, Absolutely, man. Again, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. We really respect what you do. I've been listening to your podcast a lot lately, especially, I listen a lot on Apple Podcasts while I'm at work and things like that. So, it's good to have somebody who's very, very consistent in our community and very active, especially when, it's the dead of the off season, like you mentioned. We know it's a lot to handle. So salute to you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It can be a lot. I think if we had gone an extra week, training camp started in August, we would have probably had to start talking about what Lamar had for lunch today in terms of our content. But luckily, we got the rookies on Saturday reporting, so at least we're gonna have something. At least something's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first topic we kind of want to tackle here is the latest, mid-July, the June-July takes that people have on the Ravens. So most recently, Mark Schlereth, right? And we haven't talked about this on this podcast yet, so this is kind of new. But Mark Schlereth has been on his podcast saying all sorts of things about Lamar Jackson and our Baltimore Ravens. And, there was a big take that came out. I think it was on July 4th. July the 4th is when he originally came out and said, he doesn't want to hear the excuses about Lamar Jackson not performing anymore because, this, that, and the third reason. And, everybody on Twitter pretty much crucified him, including people from the Ravens community, like prominent figures in the Ravens community were actively going at Mark Schlereth. And I thought it was pretty cool to see because the Ravens kind of like, and Mark Schlereth said this himself, the Ravens or Lamar Jackson has a cult following. This is quote from Mark Schlereth. They're a cult following. And I agree, to be honest with you, because we don't let anybody just like slander our guy, especially if we don't feel like it's warranted. Now, some of the criticisms, of course, are warranted, but that's not necessarily up for me to decide. It's for you to decide. So I want to go ahead and I want to play a clip here from a podcast that came out 2 days ago, right? It kind of flew under the radar. Nobody's really talking about it, but this is what Mark Schlereth says, what NFL coaches really think about Lamar Jackson. Let's listen.
Not only sitting with Lamar, when I sit with Lamar to do a Baltimore game, I also sit with the defensive coordinator of the other team and the defensive players of the other team. And there is not one coordinator I have sat with, there is not one person in the NFL that I have talked to that hasn't said the same thing in regards to defending Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. You've got to make the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, beat you from the pocket. And now listen, man, at some point, if some point in the NFL, and this has just been true since the dawn of time, and you know what, we can buck that trend when we come to it, but at some point, your quarterback has to beat another team from the pocket. And every game will boil down to that at some point.
Yeah, so that was Mark Schlereth on the Stinking Truth podcast. I mean, honestly, shout out to him. He's doing his thing, him and Mike Evans over there. He's going to have his opinions. But, Kevin, I want to go to you first. Like, when you hear something like that coming from Mark Schlereth, to me, it's not even the fact that he's saying, teams got to make Lamar beat him from the pocket, but it's the fact that he's saying everyone, literally everyone he's talked to is literally saying the same things. That's what kind of wakes me up, to be honest with you. But what did you make of all of it, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, guys, haven't we gone through this before? Hasn't Baker Mayfield, everyone knows that viral clip of Baker saying, if we make him throw, it's our game, or whatever it is, and Lamar went out and he beats him. Like, Lamar does it. There are stats to back it up. The eye test backs it up. Lamar Jackson has beaten teams from the pocket. I think where a lot of this comes from is playoff conversation, which Mark has been very vocal about, saying, yes, there is pressure for Lamar in the playoffs, which I agree with. I think there is pressure for him to perform. I think that just comes with the territory of being a two-time MVP and having that pressure. But to me, a lot of this feels like arguments that when he came out of college, he was very raw as a passer. Not that he couldn't throw the ball. Obviously, he could. But there was room for improvement, just like everybody else coming out of school. But there was a lot of conversation because, well, Lamar doesn't play quarterback the same way that all these other people play quarterback, and that has been unfairly held against him his entire career. And it feels like we're still getting those arguments today when we have seen, I mean, remember that Colts comeback a couple of years ago. Lamar didn't do that running for 200 yards. He diced up the Colts in the fourth quarter and overtime with his arm. But there are all of these narratives that have followed Lamar everywhere from high school to college to the pro game that people just can't seem to shake. And I get it. Lamar's a dual threat guy. He can throw the ball and he can run the ball. But I think Lamar gets almost unfairly punished for running the ball because it's just not what a quote unquote like the pocket passers do. But Lamar can sit in the pocket and he can run out and he can beat you with his legs. And that's what makes him so unique and so dynamic. Look, I don't care if you pick up the yards by throwing or running. You can pick up 6 yards by running, 6 yards by throwing. You're picking up the same amount of yards. You can score a touchdown with a leg, score a touchdown with your arm. You're scoring 6 points either way. But I think that there are just all these preconceived notions and basis about, oh, well, a quarterback is supposed to do this, to where he's not known as a pocket passer, even though he is. He has stats that say he's one of the best pocket passers in the league. So yes, has he done it every single time he's been asked to? No, but nobody does it every single time they're asked to. There are these expectations. Lamar gets praised plenty. I'm not saying he doesn't get praised ever. He has 2 MVPs, right? He has awards, he has accolades. He gets talked about in a positive light. But I think when we talk about some of these other narratives that follow him, we don't hear a lot of that about some of these other players that in a lot of cases have worse stats than Lamar because those narratives don't follow them the same way they do with Lamar. So everybody has an opinion. I get that, and I respect everybody's opinion. But at the same time, I think we have to look beyond things because Lamar doesn't throw for 300 yards a game. That's not how the Ravens offense is built. And I think he's getting punished for that as well because the Ravens built a system around him. But we know that if Lamar had to throw the ball for 300 yards, he could do it more times than not. But he throws for 185 yards on 13 and 20 passing. And people say, oh, well, that's not what a quarterback stat line is supposed to look like. So assuming, oh, yeah, well, box score watchers, if you see 185 passing yards, it's like, oh, okay, well, he didn't throw the ball effectively. When in reality, we know that he can, or you can go to the Pittsburgh game last year where that stat line looks a whole lot better if his receivers don't drop 7 balls. So Lamar certainly has his fair share of criticism that he deserves. Obviously, everybody does. But to say that, oh, all these teams think he has to throw from the pocket to beat him, well, I mean, he's done it before. So I guess it's kind of like a good luck thing with that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose with it. But I don't know. It feels like he's not getting the respect as a pocket passer that other quarterbacks do.
Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm glad you brought up, the throwing for 150. I pulled up the game last year against the Texans in the playoffs. 16 for 22, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. As Ravens fans, we don't care how we win. We know it's going to be ugly, but at the end, more times than not, we're going to win. Only quarterback that wins more than Lamar Jackson is Patrick Mahomes. So we all agree it's an anomaly. It's insane what he does. And we all know he's kind of QB1 and then Lamar's QB2. But like it's every offseason where it's something new discrediting him. I know years ago, I know you guys remember, outside the numbers. He couldn't throw outside the numbers. He goes and does do that. It was a run first. Now he's going out and he passes first. He takes too many hits. I guess this is the time of the offseason now where we're just going to kind of, make up lies and stuff like that, which is fine. And talking about the playoffs, I don't think one Ravens fan made an excuse for Lamar. I know I didn't. I know I wanted us to run more, but the interceptions, I mean, the one in triple coverage, I still can't really understand that one. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have it, but there's really no other guy I want as my quarterback, and I'm going to defend him. And, there are logical reasons, and points you can say where he can improve, and I'll agree with you there. But this one right now, I just can't. I just can't. I mean, I'd rather my quarterback throw for 150 yards and win 90% of their games than throw for 400 yards and 30 interceptions like we saw Jameis Winston do in 2019 and get the NFL passing title. That's just me personally. Sutton?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that. I kind of figured both of you guys would take that stance and defend our boy Lamar because that's warranted too. But when I was listening to Mark Schler, I kind of started to agree with him a little bit more the more and more I listened. And I'll tell you why. When he says that NFL coaches around the league, defensive coordinators specifically, say that you have to make Lamar Jackson beat you from the pocket, I think that is there's some truth to that. And the reason I say that is because situational throwing for Lamar Jackson has always been a point of emphasis where, he struggled. Like, think about it this way. The deep ball, right? The deep ball is something that Lamar Jackson has been inconsistent with damn near his whole career. And it's reared that issue of his has reared its ugly head at multiple points in his career. Let me tell you this. Last season in the AFC Championship game, there were at least 2 to 3 different plays, right, where Lamar Jackson, he had a guy deep. But he just overthrew him. He was off the mark. And I can't help but think in those situations, like, okay, I feel like Joe Burrow would have dropped that one in there. I feel like Patrick Mahomes would have dropped that one in there. I'm just saying, like, that sort of thing happens, like situational throwing, for example, one drive in the AFC Championship game, right? I think it was 1st and 10. We were down 7 at the point. And we had Nelson Aguilar in the slot. Nelson Aguilar went deep, had a step on his man, and Lamar just overthrew him. Like situational kind of throwing, opportunities like that on 1st and 10 when we should be running the football. We're putting the ball in Lamar Jackson's hand, like, hey, make this play for us. Make that play for us. And sometimes he can't. And that's the biggest issue that I have with him, especially in these big games, because it's not only the fact that, we're not running the football enough. It's the fact that when we put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands in the biggest stage of them all, again, to your point, Kevin, yes, we've seen him do it before with his arm, but we haven't seen him do it consistently. And that is the thing that's been kind of the biggest criticism on Lamar Jackson. And I'm glad that you guys acknowledge that too. But that's my biggest thing, man. Like the deep ball and the situational throwing, like that. Am I way off there or what?
Deep ball, no. Because we saw it. We saw it with the Bateman. We saw he had Bateman open. Bateman cooked sneed, didn't look his way. There was times where he overthrew guys, and that's a valid point. If you told me that, if you're going to critique his deep ball, I'm not going to argue with you because you're 100% right. And I know you did your research. As for situational, I think we saw him come back in games last year and cook some teams. Could he be better? Obviously, yeah. And then actually one more deep ball as well. He said he had bait deep on the fumble, on the strip sack fumble, I think, and the mic'd up as well. So there's another one right there. But no, you're not on the line. And I respect you for, you doing your research because you're not coming out, side of your head just talking like a lot of these people in the media do.
Yeah, and I think too, it's deep ball wise, Lamar, his trajectory deep ball wise has been so interesting to me because he wasn't a bad deep ball passer early in his career. He was middle. It was middle of the league. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. But over these past couple of years, we've seen him statistically decline into like the bottom 5 in the league in terms of qualifiers with deep ball. And that to me is interesting, where it's not all on Lamar, but it's not all on the receivers either. We give Lamar the blame in this situation because there have been plenty of times where he has overthrown. For example, you're exactly right, that Bateman play. There have been multiple times with he missed Zay a couple times, and sometimes he doesn't get held up by his receivers. But we also have to be objective and say that also Lamar has made some throws that have not been great over the course of his career. So if you're saying make Lamar throw the ball deep and do that until he proves that he can consistently, then okay. Like that's fair because on the ground, he's a terror to tackle. Like he can't do it. It's generally impossible. But he sits in the pocket and he dots up short level receivers. And in the intermediate game, he does that too. But the deep ball accuracy has been a point of inconsistency for him. So if Mark Schlereth was saying, all right, yeah, make him throw the deep ball. And if he can't prove that, then he can't prove that and make him prove it. Then okay, I can understand that one for sure. And I 100% agree. Yeah. But to me, it feels like he can do both, not perfectly, but the deep ball stuff has been something I've been kind of monitoring for these last couple of years. And hopefully he can improve on that because I think it unlocks a whole nother level of the Ravens offense.
Yeah, and I think the point is also fair that Mark Schlereth is making as well, because we really haven't seen a quarterback of Lamar's kind of archetype, if you will, win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Who's the last one? Who are we talking? Like Steve Young? Or like who are we talking? Like who's won a Super Bowl with that kind of style of play? So I don't know. And here's my biggest concern, honestly, and I think that Alex would kind of share my same opinion on this one. I don't know if John Harbaugh is going to be the coach to revolutionize, this type of quarterback play being championship worthy. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's the guy, because it's been shown time and time again when push really comes to shove, like it looks like we don't know what the hell we're doing out there, and especially against teams like the Chiefs. I mentioned this in the in the live stream that we did immediately following the AFC Championship game loss. It seems like when we play a team like the Chiefs, a team with such a resume like that, that's clearly a dynasty. It seems like we play not to lose to the Chiefs instead of playing to beat the Chiefs. And they come out in the AFC Championship game, scoring their first 2 drives back to back. Of course, it was a tough catch over Kyle Hamilton, Travis Kelce in the end zone, and that kind of really took the wind out of our sails. We bounced back with a touchdown to Zay, sure, but like it's just, I think that the Ravens coaching staff really hit the panic button after those first 2 scores, and there was really no looking back from there, and that really explains the 6 carries in the AFC Championship game. But again, man, my biggest point taken away from that, I just don't know if John Harbaugh is going to be the one to kind of bring that, usher in that new era officially, right? Because to officially usher in the new era of like quarterbacks and like, okay, mobile quarterbacks and get it done, one of them's got to win a Super Bowl. One of them's got to win. Jalen Hurts had an opportunity a couple years ago. He did. He failed. So like that kind of stereotype is being upheld. So somebody's got to break it. I don't know if it's going to be Harbs.
Yeah, we can go to the line. What, Cam Newton didn't win it. Cunningham didn't. Vic didn't.
Nope.
Yeah, and then obviously you had your other ones scattered around, Tyrod, obviously. But yeah, you make a good point there, and I'm kind of, I do agree with you there. Maybe getting Derrick Henry kind of would change that now. Even if you're down 14 points, you can still run it, I hope.
Yes.
With Derrick Henry, I hope. I mean, if it's early enough, and it was the first half, so yeah, that still pisses me off and kind of angers me. I think about it once every week, but I kind of brush over it. I'm like, all right, it's a new season. We have a good team. We have good pieces around. But yeah, thanks for reminding me, Sutton, of the 6 carries.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
It's tough.
Right
man.
before
it's
a weekend too. Come on.
I'm still hurting over that, and like you said, I think having a Derrick Henry will kind of like instill that faith in the Ravens coaching staff that like, hey, even if we are down, right, even if it is a tough close game against whoever, we can give the ball to a Derrick Henry and we can put defenses in a bind when they're trying to figure out whether Derrick Henry is going to come through the A gap or whether Lamar Jackson's going to pull out through the edge. We can let them figure that out, right? Have fun. I think that the Ravens coaches will really kind of adopt that strategy. I don't think we'll see it as much during the regular season because I think they want to keep him healthy for the playoffs because that's where we know we need the most help. And I think that Derrick Henry is that help, just like we signed Odell and last offseason. The main reason why we signed him was for help in the playoffs, and we were glad to have him, healthy in the playoffs. So hopefully we can get Derrick Henry to do the same thing. Okay, let's go ahead and transition topics a little bit here, kind of, sort of, a little bit. We kind of been touching on the AFC Championship game. You guys know what's after the AFC Championship game, right? It's the Super Bowl, right? So my question here that I want to ask Kevin, I want to ask Simply, and I want to ask the chat as well, and then of course the replay gang, is this year for the Ravens Super Bowl or bust? Like just point blank, period. Bottom line up front, is it Super Bowl or bust year for the Ravens, Kevin?
I'll go. It's not a Super Bowl or bust year for the Ravens, but it might be for John Harbaugh. Is what I'll say.
I like
here.
that.
It might be for John Harbaugh. Now, my stance on, and you guys were talking about it a little bit, but my stance on John Harbaugh is I think he's a good coach. I do. I think he's a quality coach. He has shown that over the course of his coaching career with the Ravens. But to me, I'm very big on growth. And what I mean by that is particularly in the playoffs. We know this team's playoff history with Lamar Jackson, which is they made the wild card game his first year when he was a rookie. He came in for Flacco and did the whole thing. They lost in the wild card round. All right. That's good. Rookie year. Then they take the huge leap in 2019 and they make the divisional round. They lose in embarrassing fashion to Tennessee. That wasn't wonderful. But then they've gone through this like wild card divisional, not making the playoffs, wild card. Like it's been in that area where with a player like Lamar Jackson, you have to be able to maximize that. And again, it's not all on Harbaugh. It's not all on Lamar. It's a group collective effort. But obviously the head coach and the quarterback can be the two that get the most blame for not getting the job done when you have those expectations. Now, to me, it's like if the Ravens make the wild card round but lose maybe this year, they go to the divisional round and they lose again. Every year Lamar's prime you're wasting, it's like that's one less opportunity. Because with any player, it's not just Lamar, with these quarterbacks, you don't know when that prime's going to end. We've seen super sharp declines. We've also seen really long careers. You just don't know what you're going to get. But each year, you can even, honestly, if we're talking Super Bowl or bust, I think for a lot of people, I think everybody thought that last year was that because of the roster they had, the coaching staff they had, and the conversation around that year was if Mike McDonald left, guys, after the Ravens won the Super Bowl, everyone would have been like, oh, okay, great. Awesome. Job was finished. Go out there, have a great time in Seattle. Not that people weren't rooting for him, not rooting for him now, but it's like, man, we really missed an opportunity with that roster and that coaching staff. But for Harbaugh, it's like, if they have another disappointing year, let's say, they had growth this past season because they made the AFC Championship. They hadn't done that in 10 years. So I'm like, okay, I understand people were, of course, saying fire Harbaugh. Regardless of what side you were on in that conversation, I just knew they weren't going to do it because they did better than they've done. But this year, I mean, they have a first-year defensive coordinator, a second-year offensive coordinator. I mean, if they have a wild card exit, something has to change. And are you going to fire the special teams coordinator? Like, I don't know. I don't know where the blame falls, but Lamar will be 28 after the year ends, which is crazy. He seems like he was drafted yesterday, honestly.
Yeah.
But they have time as long as they have Lamar. I don't think this year defines that. They can rebuild their roster. They can figure it out around him. But in terms of Harbaugh, we're now getting to the point where what else would constitute him staying around if they have another, let's say, injury-riddled season and they don't make the playoffs, if they have a disappointing wild card or divisional exit, would they just run it back again and have that happen? Maybe, but I think it's at least a conversation to have, not anything set in stone, obviously.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, I love the way you put it with the Harbaugh Super Bowl or bust. I'll say yes because I want us to improve, and at the same time, I know this roster isn't as good as last year. Unless we somehow have crazy growth from a guy like Bateman, from a guy like Owe, who we really hope so, but we don't know because we haven't seen enough. Who's going to make up for the yards we lost from Odell? Who's going to make up from the sacks we lost from Clowney? Is Justin Madubuike going to put up, 13 sacks again? Most likely not. I would love him to, but I'm trying to be realistic here. Who's going to take that next step? We lost Geno Stone. There's 7 interceptions right there. Who's going to get them? Could be Justin Simmons. Could be a guy like Ardarius Washington, who I know they're hyping up right now, who I know I really like. But at the same time, he's a UDFA. I don't want to put too much expectation on him. And Geno was a 7th rounder. But yeah, I like what you said, Kevin. Damn, I love that. You know what? I'll say yes for the sake of it. It's going to be hard to because it feels like every other team got so much better. They go out and make these signings, these trades. But at the end of the day, we're a damn good organization. We'll be there in the hunt. And let's just hope we catch fire in January again. So, yes, it is Super Bowl or bust.
Well, I want to say yes, but I have to say no. And the reason being is because I think that I don't think that this year's Super Bowl or bust. I think it's going to be next year. And I say that because Lamar Jackson really gets expensive after next season. Right now, I don't know exactly what the percentage of the cap he's taking up, but he hasn't gotten as expensive as, he possibly could be, to the point where it's really, really affecting some of our roster decisions, our draft decisions, things like that, free agency stuff. But after next season, he's going to account for around about 25% of the cap. That is going to balloon. So that's about a quarter of the cap space that the Ravens are going to have allotted to the quarterback. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions, have some grown-up conversations. Eric DeCosta is going to have to, we're going to be on here talking about it and just kind of speculating and whatnot. But it's going to be tough. And, I think that's why I think that not this year, but next year. But I think Kevin brings up a good point. Like if we get, bounced on the wild card round or something like that, right? Do we just run it back? Like where do we go from there? I guess we have to go with the story of the season. Alex, you had something?
Yeah, I looked up his cap numbers. Next year is 43.6 mil, and then in 26 and 27 it's 74.6. So you obviously know we're gonna make some cap adjustments there. But yeah, 43 right now for 2025 for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, if we want to kind of catch the dynasty of the Chiefs, which is, as a Ravens fan in my heart, I would love for the Ravens to just go on a Super Bowl run, break off like 2-3 in a row, something like that. At least 2. That'd be lovely. Hell, 1 would be, I would love that too. But man, it's going to be tough, especially after next season. So I hope that we can get it done as soon as possible, which will, this season, while we have this kind of this new magic with Derrick Henry and the new look offense, and we'll see what, kind of Todd Monken's orchestra sounds like in his sophomore season. But it's going to be a very interesting year. I thought that was a very good question. Listen, if you guys are answering these questions and you're in the live chat, make sure you keep putting your answers in the live chat. But if you're watching this and you're not in the live chat, make sure you put your comments down below, because we love the replay gang just as much as our live chat members. So let's go ahead and move right along here. Okay, so there was some news, right? We're mid-July. But there was some news about the Ravens acquiring a player. Around this time of year, we're normally looking into, we're speculating on what edge rush are we going to pick up or something like that, right? Which, me personally, I wouldn't mind if we were of the same mindset this season, So me personally, I want to get you guys' take on this. I don't know why so many Ravens fans are clamoring for a veteran safety. I understand the I words, which, we call injuries I words here on the Purple Rain podcast, Kevin, because we don't like to, a little superstitious in that regard. So yeah, just let you know. But I don't necessarily know if we need a safety, but that's the speculation lately. You know, Justice Simmons is the big name that's been kind of thrown out there. Will he come to Baltimore? If so, what's his asking price? Yada, yada, yada. Do we get him during training camp? Do we wait till the market falls on him? I personally don't think that we should go after a safety. By the way, over 200 people watching live right now. Thank you guys so much for joining this episode of the show. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And shout out to our guest, Kevin Oestreicher. He is absolutely blazing the mic right now. So make sure you stay tuned in. But yeah, what do you make of all this, Kevin? Do you think that Justin Simmons should come to Baltimore or no?
I would love it for the Ravens, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense for Simmons himself, if we're being honest. I mean, I would absolutely. I mean, Hamilton, Williams, and Simmons is by far the best safety trio in the league. I mean, Simmons is a starter in his own right, and I think that's where it doesn't make much sense for him, because I'm sure he's looking for an opportunity, one, contractually, but two, just an opportunity to start somewhere. And in Baltimore, unless those I words happen, we're not going to say it, but those I words, I mean, there's not a starting spot for him. Now, I will say in today's NFL, guys, it's a little like defenses have evolved to the point where it's more so positionless defenses. So you see a lot more 3 safety looks and multiple defensive back packages. And now with Patrick Queen no longer in the fold, you can afford to bring in another safety like they did with, you know, Chuck Clark when he was their dime backer, and Tony Jefferson and some of those guys. But for Simmons, there is that question of what is his asking price. I don't think the particulars on the Jamal Adams contract have been released yet. I'm not sure if they have or not, but it's going to be more than whatever that was. And the Ravens really only have 5 or 6-ish million in cap space right now. They can make some moves to get the number up a little bit, but I know historically they're not necessarily massive fans of just restructuring everybody and pushing all that money down the line. So I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing in Simmons, obviously. I think, again, if you can get him in, that's great. But I just don't think it's uber realistic. If they bring in somebody else, there are still plenty of guys out there. Eddie Jackson, Micah Hyde, a couple others as well. But it seems like this is the year of almost, I call it the replacement plans, or people getting promotions. It seems like in most positions, the Ravens are opting to not sign veterans and trust their young guys, which is a risk for a contending team, but it feels like they trust them enough, like a Trenton Simpson, Bateman, and some of those other guys we've talked about here, to the point where I think they just want to see what they have. I think some of it will work out. I think it's unrealistic to think 100% of it will, but I think they want to see what they have. And a guy like Ardarius Washington, who I've been a fan of since TCU, I think he's going to get an opportunity this season, and like you guys have said, they're certainly happing him up enough to the point where I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If we sign Justin Simmons, I'd be running around here, jumping around, kicking my feet. And a big thing for that too is I think he has 5 picks off Mahomes too. So you know, if you win the AFC, you got to beat the Chiefs. So I'm like, if we're bringing him in for that reason too, I'd be all for it. But yeah, money wise, I don't think he want to come here. Garnett in the chat says Javon Curse makes way more sense. I'm right there with you. I remember we had him in 2020, and I wanted him to get more playing time. And then you see him go to the Cowboys and he's balling out. I'm like, wow, he was a Raven on the practice squad. But that makes sense. And I have to also, simmer my expectations. EDC is not going to hit what he did last year. He went just 100 for 100 with every free agent, it felt like, whether it be Arthur Millette, Ronald Darby, Clowney. Like, we're in training camp in August and he's signing these guys just because Marlon Humphrey went down. I remember I wasn't even in the state, and I'm like, wow, Humphrey's down. I had no internet, and it was awful. Bad time. But yeah, he just went, just hitting all his free agency picks, and yeah, I'm looking either at edge rusher, maybe some offensive line help, because I still don't trust the guards. And I know, some people are hyping up the guys, and I want our quarterback to be protected. I don't want it to have a repeat of last year against the Chiefs when, like I said, he had Bateman open and he gets strip sacked because he didn't have enough time. That's my biggest worry. I would love to get Simmons, but it's just not a priority right now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with both of you guys, especially what you just said right there, Alex. I mean, it's not a priority. It would literally be the most luxurious of luxuries, to be honest with you. So, with that being said, again, I wanted to gauge you guys' opinion in the chat here. Let me see. Tanja Bowman chimes in, says EDC picked up all those corners because Humphrey went down and Clowney for Ojabo. Speaking of David Ojabo, just really quick, kind of wanted to touch on him.
Yeah.
What are kind of our expectations for David Ojabo going into year 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, got some experience under his belt now. I mean, he's gonna have to step up and be one of the guys, like you said, who's gonna replace those 9-10 sacks from Jadeveon Clowney? Is it gonna be a guy like Ojabo? Is it gonna be a guy like Odafe Owe? Who do you guys honestly think we can rely on more this season, Ojabo or Owe?
I think it'll be Owe. I just think with Ojabo, I would love to put all the eggs in that basket, but you just can't with the injury. I caught myself. I caught it.
Yeah, you're good.
I was so close, but I
You're
caught myself. But yeah, at the end of the day, with Ojabo and just what he has been through, we just don't know. He's an unknown wild card. He's been able to put the production out there when he's been healthy, but that's the key. And that's a question for a lot of these guys. It's just when they've been healthy. So I think to me, Owe he's had solid years, but we haven't seen that pure breakout season from him yet. Obviously, the 5th-year option got picked up, so that gives him a little more stability. You know, he's not wondering about what his future is going to be next season. But to me, could we maybe see like a Justin Madubuike type breakout season? I think there are a couple of pressure rates and everything and some advanced metrics that he's about league average. And if he can improve on those a little bit more, I think we could see that. But as a run defender, as a pass rusher, they're going to need him because this is it's a promotion essentially where Clowney was taking a lot of those early down snaps. You know who he is as a run defender. Plus he had the pass rush resurgence and that helped out a lot. Not having to put all this pressure on Owe last season to step up next to Kyle Van Noy. DeCosta signing Van Noy and Clowney helped a lot of that room with pressure because it was a young room going into the season. I think that helped Owe just kind of take a step back and do his thing. But obviously, as you get older, as you play the game more, as you step into bigger roles, that happens. So this is his year now to step up. I would love double-digit sacks from him for Ojabo. I'd love to see him play, even if he has to miss a couple games, just a decently fully healthy season. Because, I mean, his first sack, I think, was a strip sack on Joe Burrow's first tackle, I think, was a strip sack on Joe Burrow, which is just super sweet to think about. But we haven't seen him put it together because of the health. The talent is there, but can he stay healthy is the question.
Yeah, 100% agree there. And going back to like talking about the running downs, the Steelers with a much improved lineup. I think you have Najee Harris now kind of fighting for a contract. Nick Chubb's going to be back, and then you have a new running back in Cincinnati. And the AFC North football, it's hard nosed running down your throat. So we have to look at that and just the AFC as a whole. I hope Owe breaks out. I'm saying Owe. I'll trust him more. Ojabo, 2 games, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He had the one in week 1 as well. Like, so we know he can produce, but it's just kind of staying on the field, and that's worrisome. But yeah, I'm gonna rock with Owe on this one. He's my guy, Sutton, and I'm gonna rock with him. Even during training camp, when you're seeing the videos, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna be taking it all in and taking the bait. So
I mean, we know he's gonna terrorize training camp. He's literally been training camp MVP the past, since his rookie season, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But to me, it's the almost factor for me when it comes to Odafe Owe. You know what I mean? Like he gets there, but like it's just not quite there. You know what I mean? And I wish this was like, my uncle used to say, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And that's what I feel like with Odafe Owe. He's right there, but like he just can't quite get home to the point, and it's just a lot of the times his pressures seem to be like a moot point. Because the guy gets a pass off or whatever, he scrambles out and he runs it. I don't know, man. I just want to, I don't want to bag on Owe too much. And I know I'm rambling here because I feel very strongly about this guy. I was very high on him coming out of college, and when a lot of people weren't believing in him, I was believing in him. So was Alex. But over the years, I've just kind of slowly lost my faith in Owe. But hopefully, this is the year that he can kind of finally pick it up and start to develop some of those high sack totals. So we'll see. Okay. All right. So moving along here. Again, thank you guys. Over 220 people watching live on this episode 247 of the Purple Rain podcast. Again, thank you so much to our guest, Kevin Oestreicher from Locked On Ravens, coming through. Shout out to him. Let's go ahead and get into our next topic here. We got a couple more things to discuss with you guys. Let's see. So who do you guys think? This is a good one. Who do you guys think is an underrated Raven? Somebody flying under the radar. A Raven flying under the radar right now, who we should be looking out for in the 2024 season. Someone nobody's talking about, but we should be. Alex, I'm going to start with you on this one. Then I'm going to go to Kevin.
Yeah.
Alex, what do you think?
2 weeks ago, it was Darius Washington. It really was. Like,
Exactly.
we talked about him last year in the preseason. He was balling out. Then there's a whole feature article on him on the Ravens. Like, well, there it goes. I mean, there goes the Darius Washington, just like little hype train that we had going. It was like really small, and now it's kind of blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Darius, yeah. I mean, I guess for like another like low key guy, I'll go Charlie Kolar because I thought his blocking improved throughout the year last year, and he kind of made a couple of plays, when Andrews went down, but maybe some red zone, kind of. He's a third tight end. You forget about him. Maybe you have a little couple of Charlie Kolar touchdown. Put the light bill on it. Maybe not, depending what your unit size is in gambling. Just letting you know. But yeah, I'll go Kolar. I see shouts for Travis Jones, which is a great shout, Tanja.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get a crazy year from Travis Jones and kind of him and Madubuike being that nasty fourth on the D line.
Yeah, I was gonna say Travis Jones. Tandra took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, Travis Jones he's known actually to be one of, if not the strongest guy on the team, and like he's a wrecking ball down there in the trenches. I mean, we don't really watch it too much. I know when most people watch a football game, they're watching the quarterback or they're watching the receivers to see how the play develops. But if you go back and watch film and watch tape, he is a mover of men. Travis Jones is, and I have high expectations for him, especially since he's had to step up in the absence of a guy like Calais Campbell, who departed season before last, and I think he stepped up into that role at nose tackle and around there pretty well. And I really love, I don't know, I won't go there. I'm not going to go there. I was going to talk about the entire defensive line, but I want to stick to Travis Jones. I see G talks about Andrew Voorhees. This is a name that I wanted to bring up to you guys as well. Now, Kevin, I want to toss it to you and get your take. But real quick, what do you think about Andrew Voorhees?
I like him. I thought it was such a great move from Eric DeCosta to trade back into the draft to get him. I mean, he was a third, fourth round pick for a lot of people before he ended up suffering that injury at the combine. But he's just kind of one of those really solid players. He's a bring the lunch pail to work type of guy. He has a ton of strength. And I think he kind of fits this vision of what Todd Monken sees in his offensive line, where a lot of people talked about the Roman to Monken transition and was like, okay, well, Monken's inheriting all of these, like, what's the pass catcher room going to look like? And what's the offense around Lamar? Well, he also inherited Greg Roman's offensive line. And it feels like Monken just wanted to get younger, and they were probably concerned about some of those health concerns with Morgan Moses and a couple of others. So you lose a couple of quality players. Kevin Zeitler was one heck of an offensive lineman still, and even Morgan Moses was really solid for him last season. But Voorhees, I think, fits that bill if he can get out into space a little bit. He does have strength. And I think, again, it's going to be about what did the injury or anything like that do, just in terms of did it sap anything? Right. What did he look like before, and what does he look like now? Because I think for some people, they can recover easier than other people. But we're just going to have to wait and see. By all accounts, he's looked good, but we're going to have to wait and see when the pads come on, because that's when we really get to start getting those takeaways in.
Absolutely. And your most underrated Raven, did you give us yours already? Or
no, not yet.
Who's yours?
I was going to. Travis Jones is he's been my breakout pick forever, but I want to go different. I want to give a name we haven't talked about.
Okay.
I'm going to go Justice Hill.
Ooh, like it.
And my reason for Justice Hill is we know that unfortunately Keaton is not going to be back for the start of the season. Obviously, when Keaton comes back, this pick probably he gets a little less work. But I think that even though Derrick Henry is with the team now, he's going to be the bell cow. This is what it is. Justice Hill showed me a lot last season, if we're being honest. He was a lot better than I thought he was. I mean, we know his special teams value. We know the Ravens love him in that gunner role, and he can do a lot there. But to me, I think is that change of pace. Maybe you want to put him in on some third downs. Although I think Derrick Henry is going to play a decent third down role for them, especially as a pass catcher. People don't understand he's a little bit of a pass catcher and a speedster. He is faster than I guess he looks to a lot of people. But Justice shows that he has the strength that I think is underrated. His speed is a little underrated too. He's kind of like this lightning in a bottle, not quite Lamar Jackson lightning or Keaton lightning, but he certainly has that element to him. So I would expect him not to necessarily work in tandem in terms of an even split between those two guys with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, but I'd expect him to play a pretty decent role until Keaton comes back, and maybe even as a third down back and Rasheen Ali gets maybe the healthy and active every game, and Justice kind of moves back to a special teams role. But I think Justice will be a big part of the offense until Keaton comes back, and then his role will probably decrease, but not completely go away.
No,
That's a great point because I know we signed Deontay Hardy for kickoffs, but Justice Hill could very easily be in that position too, depending what happens at training camp. Great point.
Yeah. No, I really like Justice Hill, and I like the fact that you brought up the point that he's deceptively quick. I mean, like, I've seen him hit moves like damn near kind of at the same sort of like agility level as Lamar Jackson. So you're really not far off there. Of course, he doesn't have the same like top end speed or the same like, you know, literal playmaking ability that Lamar Jackson has in open space. But no, I mean, you make a really good point. And he's done that in playoff games too. I've seen him do it in playoff games, which is crazy. I think he was actually playing pretty well last season. I think it was up until we played, I want to say it was the Steelers. Correct me if I'm wrong. We played the Steelers, and he broke off a big run, and he got tackled from behind, and he fumbled. And after that moment, I don't really remember hearing as much about Justice Hill, and that's when we started to hear more about Keaton Mitchell. I want to say that's how that kind of transpired last season. But yeah, no, I like that pick a lot because, like you say, Keaton Mitchell is not going to be starting the season. I don't think that they're going to want to run Derrick Henry into the ground. So Justice Hill, he should be getting some work. He definitely should. Somebody else brought up Tavius Robinson. Could be another one potentially.
Oh,
Yeah. There's room to eat. There's room to eat for the edge rushers. You know.
Can I give a shout out to Malik Harrison? Maybe. Just
good one. Another good one.
He's setting the edge a little bit last year, and you know, with Patrick Queen going, still hurts my heart. Could get some more playing time.
Yeah, potentially. Okay. I love that topic. Again, if you have more thoughts on that topic, make sure you throw them down below in the comments section. We want to get to those, of course, after the show. We got one more thing we want to talk to Kevin about before we let him out of here. We've kind of ran a little bit over our time. I hope that's okay with you, Kevin. Okay, cool. We got one more question we want to share with you. So this is a kind of a fun one, right? People have been talking about this more recently on Twitter. The whole Mount Rushmore thing, right? Mount Rushmore for the Ravens. Like, who are your top 4 Ravens of all time? Now there's some debates that I've seen on the internet, and there's some fair points from both sides of these debates. So I want to get you guys' take, and of course the chat. Listen, if you're watching live right now, I just want everybody to throw their top 4 Ravens of all time in the chat. Your top 4 Ravens in the chat. And if you're part of the hashtag replay gang, again, thank you so much for joining the show. Make sure you leave your top 4 down below in the comment section. Kevin, I'm gonna start with you. What are your top 4 Ravens, or what's your Mount Rushmore for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the top 3, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Jonathan Ogden. That to me is not a debate, but it's that 4th spot that's getting everybody low riled up right now.
Yeah.
Low riled up. Now, my take on the Mount Rushmore thing is I personally believe it should be reserved for retired players. I think I like to assess it when everything is said and done. Lamar will be this 4th spot one day. Right. That to me is not a question.
Mm-hmm.
But since Lamar is still playing, I'm going to go Terrell Suggs is my 4. Now, I was debating with Marshall Yanda. Obviously, that's another one. And active players still include guys like Joe Flacco and Justin Tucker, etc. So it's so tough because if I were to include the active player aspect of things, it's so hard because like Lamar is Lamar, but I don't know if I see Justin Tucker is one where like you can't deny the greatness.
I got Tuck in there. If I'm including active players, he's in there. Tuck.
Yeah, I don't. Based off of longevity, I'd probably go Tucker, but it's going to be Lamar in that 4th spot, and by the time he's retired.
I say Tuck because I think he's got the most points scored of all time for the Ravens, right? He holds that, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty big. Of course, like not gonna say any kicker, but a lot of kickers who are with a team for a long period of time would probably have that accolade. Well, not even really then. Not even really. I don't know. But the Ravens, I know they're a young team, whatever. But Alex, what do you think?
Oh my gosh. For a team for a franchise that isn't 30 years old, we have a lot of really good players. So I'm just gonna kind of be grateful for that as a Ravens fan. Thankfully, I love the Tuck shot. I love a Lamar shout. I think I have to go Suggs. He was one of my favorite. He's my favorite Raven ever. Honestly, I have to shout Suggs on mine. It hurt me when he left. I literally have his Super Bowl jersey right next to me, 2012. But yeah, I have to go Suggs for just kind of the big 3 with him, Ray, and Ed. It's hard to see that ever again. And maybe we do have right now with maybe Matt Abike, Roquan, and Kyle Hamilton. Hopefully they can play like that. But yeah, give me Suggs, and Yanda is right real close behind. But like we just have to start making tiers now because like Lamar's obviously when he wins a Super Bowl, he'll be on there. Let me just say the win. And Yanda deserves a shout too because he could play literally anywhere on the line in an elite position. So we're blessed with really good players in this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you guys for the most part. I mean, I definitely think I'm putting Ray Lewis, Ed Reed in there. To me, I'll put Jonathan Ogden in there. I was really wrestling with Marshall Yanda being like just the best right guard that we've ever had. Like that's I vividly remember that over the Jonathan Ogden days. Just gonna level with you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He holds a special place in my heart. But then I have to include current players too, because that was my whole thing going into this. I thought we were including the current players, but I totally understand your point in not including them. Like you want to make sure you can see the bigger picture, the full entire picture when it's done being painted. But I got to throw Tuck in there, man. Again, Tuck's got to take that 4th spot for me, man. He's just been so reliable. He's got a Super Bowl with us. He brought us out of kicking hell. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we were dealing with the Billy Cundiff days, right? We all know the pain of losing the AFC Championship game on a shanked field goal, 30-yard field goal, right, against the Patriots, right? And seeing Vince Wilfork hold his 300-pound arms up like this, taunting the Ravens as the Patriots advanced to the Super Bowl. We remember that type of pain, and Justin Tucker never made us feel anything even remotely close to that. I think we maybe lost one game on Justin Tucker's leg, and I want to say it was against the Saints in like 2017 or something like that. But yeah, for that reason, I got to put Tuck in there for sure.
Yeah. I can't get mad at that.
So, yeah. So that is going to be a wrap here for our guest, Kevin Oestreicher. Again, thank you so much, man, for coming through. This has been an absolutely amazing experience with you. We hope to have you on again at some point during the season. Hopefully.
Dope. Yes. 100%.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
That would be awesome, man. We love your analysis. You are officially now a friend of the show, a member of the hashtag Rain Gang, what we call. So welcome to the family, bro. But again, I want to thank you again so much.
Thank
from
you.
The bottom of our hearts here from the Purple Rain podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, guys. This was really fun. And next, I know I slipped up on the I word one time, so next time I'm gonna be better. And I'm not gonna no slip ups.
Good.
No slip ups.
All good. Last thing before you go, let us know where we can find you, bro.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Chaos Striker 34. On Instagram as well at Chaos Striker 34. I host the Locked On Ravens podcast. So 5 days per week. We go Monday through Friday, live talking about the Ravens. We do live shows, bonus episodes as well. Also, I write over at the Ravens Wire for USA Today. So you can find my written content over there. I also do work for Bleacher Report. And then over on the Ryan Ripken show, I know we're in full Orioles season right now. So we talk baseball over there, obviously Ravens as well. So I love the Baltimore sports community. And again, guys, really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
You guys heard it here first. Kevin Oestreicher, ladies and gentlemen.
Much love.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right.
Yeah, speaking of the Orioles, I'll be at the game on Saturday against the Yankees. So I am looking forward to that. I love a good Ravens New York game, especially baseball when we're good. Oh, give it to me.
Yeah. Again, big shout out to Kevin Oestreicher, man. He was absolutely awesome. I mean, that was his first time on the show. I mean, we went 45, 50 minutes with him and every step of the way.
Could have went longer.
Could have went longer, honestly. We could have went longer. That's why we got to get him back on the show, especially sometime during the season, man. It'll be really cool to have him back. So again, thank you. If you're still watching, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. All right, Alex, before we get out of here, I have a question for you, and I want everybody watching live right now. This is part of the question segment of the show, right? Where you can ask Simply AS10 and Sutton Def, myself, any question you would like about anything. It could be about Ravens football, it could be about other teams in the NFL, it could be about other sports, it could be about the Olympics. We don't know. I mean, it could be about soccer, it could be about anything. Anything you want to talk about. Ask us questions down below in the chat. I have one for you though, Alex. I'm gonna start here.
What's up?
And you're gonna know where I'm going with this after I say the name. Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner made a tweet yesterday, and he said that officially golf is the harder sport than football. And he said it with conviction. He said, as somebody who's played both, golf is a harder sport than the game of football. Now, I was taken aback originally by hearing the statement. So I clicked on the tweet because it was a tweet on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And I scrolled down and look at the comments and see who was, trash talking or agreeing with him or whatever. And everyone was agreeing. And I'm just like, okay, I get the fact that like this guy's in the NFL, so he knows what it's like to play football at the absolute highest level. So you kind of got to respect his opinion on that. Yeah. But at the same time, I thought about it, I was like, no. So wait a minute. No, I'm not going for that. Golf harder than football? There's no way, bro. There's no way. I mean, there's a reason why you don't see Joe Biden and Donald Trump arguing about who's better at football at the presidential debate. They're talking about golf because, I mean, listen, I'm not saying it's an easier sport, but it's a lot easier on the body. I can start with that. I can say that. So, I mean, just the sheer physicality alone. The sheer physicality alone. Go ahead.
You don't have your 60-year-old geezers out there, no, with all due respect, playing flag football on the weekends. Now, I'll tell you this. I know I cannot play golf. I have been a top golf 3 times, I think, and I can't hit a ball. Like, I don't practice. Football, I can catch a ball. I can throw a ball. I can kick a ball. I can punt a ball. I can do multiple things with the ball. But at a high level, professional level, a guy like me at my size, very hard for me to make the NFL. Even if I went to college, even if I was in the gym 7 days a week, very hard for me to make the NFL. Golf, on the other hand, you have a point. Maybe if I went to the green, worked on a little bit, maybe I'd be a little good at it. Who knows?
I would say, what are you like in your mid 20s, late 20s now? By the time like you're
mid 20s,
40, yeah. By the time you're like 40 something, you might be really good. You never know.
Yeah, and I just think a lot of it's like concentration of mind too. Do you have like the mental capacity, kind of just stay locked in for all of those, the holes and the rounds on the part. Listen, I've never been into golf. I like almost every sport. I've never sat down and watched a golf tournament. I gotta be honest with you. It just isn't my cup of tea. Maybe Sauce has a point, but as of right now, Mr. Gardner, I have to respectfully disagree with you.
Disagree wholeheartedly, man. I mean, just simply because, like, come on, it takes way more discipline, I think, to play football than it does golf. Some people might think that's a hot take, whatever. I'm not a golfer either, but I can tell you this though. It takes discipline. It takes want to, right? To have to, walk up to a line of scrimmage and try to move another grown man out of the way. Let's just talk from an offensive lineman's perspective or something like that. One of the most basic positions, I would say, in the game, not a skill position. It's man on man type things, right? Every 30 seconds, you're lining up at the line of scrimmage and trying to move this other 300-pound man out of the way. You have to want to do that every single time. He might throw you down. You have to get back up and want to get back up. And want to get back out there and risk embarrassing yourself or getting hurt or whatever. You have to do that for 4 quarters. I just think that when we talk about what's harder, like, excuse me, sorry, what takes more finesse and precision is going to be golf, right? Yeah. But what sport is like harder when you encompass like everything? It's got to be football, man. It's got to be football. There's a reason why guys like Roquan Smith are doing smelling salts on the sideline before he runs out of there, because it's just, you got to psych yourself up to get ready for something like that. It's a hard thing to get your mind prepared for. So I disagree with Sauce.
Yeah, I agree. Disagree.
Yeah. So let's see what other questions we got here. I see one from, hold on, let me bring this one up. We got one from K-Dog, Mod K-Dog, that is. Says, can we talk about the love that Kevin Holland showed to Simply AS10? Yeah, let's talk about that. Because listen, for those of you guys who are watching, we got almost 250 people watching live still right now. So thank you guys so much for joining this episode of the show. We appreciate you. If you are new to the channel, my name is Sutton Def. That is Simply AS10. We run the Purple Rain podcast. We talk about Ravens football. We talk about other sports as well. But Simply AS10 over here, as you guys might know, he is a video editor, right? He has one of the most successful NFL highlight reel channels on YouTube. Like, quite literally, over 100,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you. And yeah, so big shout out to him. But this was amazing because I'm a big UFC fan. Alex has known that since we've been cool. I'm a big UFC fan. I've been following Kevin Holland, who is a UFC. He kind of tethers between welterweight and middleweight. I'll just say middleweight, UFC middleweight, who has notoriety. You know what I mean? Like, he's ranked. He is actually really good. He's known for his striking. He's known for having a big mouth in the octagon. He talks his shit. But I really like watching him fight. And Kevin Holland recently reposted Alex's video. Or no, he accepted himself to be a collaborator, right? Yeah. Which means this is going to open up the gate for other fighters to be hitting you up. Alex, I hope you know this now.
I wish.
Because they're going to be asking you for the highlight tapes, man. If you got the cosign from Kevin Holland, that's tough, man. Shout out to you.
Thank you. Yeah, that video took me 4 days. I actually, when I was making, I'm happy with saying, "Are you still making that video?" Yes, I yeah, I don't know why I made it. I wanted to make it, and then I just accept. I invited him to collaborate. I'm like, if he sees it, he sees it. It had 38 likes in a day. I'm like, oh, he's not going to see it. And then I'm literally driving. I'm at a red light, pull my phone up, and it says he accepted it. I put my phone down. I'm like, I know I didn't read that. I'm like, just gonna keep driving. And it was true. And yeah, so he's my favorite fighter. That's not gonna change. It's gonna be hard to beat that now. I have his freaking graphic tee in my room for a reason. But yeah, shout out to Kevin Holland. And yeah, can we get some PRPX UFC, please? That'd be dope. I would love that. That'd be dope.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Let me see. The Don in the house dropping the super chat.
Hello.
What's going on, Don? Appreciate you dropping the 5-piece in the chat, making it rain here on episode 247 of the Purple Rain podcast. Thank you so much, man. It says much love, PRP, Alex and Sutton, the best. Yes, sir. We are back. We've been gone for a couple days now, but we are back here. 4th of July, vacations, things like that.
Yeah,
we are back.
How was your 4th?
You know what, Alex? My 4th was very uneventful. You want to know why? Because the night before, I went out to there was a club event out in the city in DC, and my cousin is actually the CEO of the event company or whatever. Nice. So I was out there supporting him, and that was a good time. And me and my friends, after we left, we were like, you know what? Let's stop by the MGM, right? So we go to the casino like real late at night, and we're just in there, having a good time. And I didn't get home until like 4 a.m. right on July 4th morning, right? So pretty much the entire day I was just like recovering R&R, so I listened to the fireworks and kind of watched them out of my window, and that was that, But how was your 4th?
Nice. Went over families, watching fireworks. Nothing crazy, I'll be honest with you. Stayed safe, most importantly. I have all 10 fingers and all 10 toes, unlike some people after 4th of July.
JPP.
Yeah, shout out to JPP. But yeah, nothing crazy. I'm glad that we're back on the Purple Rain podcast. And just one more thing. Did you see the Colombia and Uruguay match last night in the Copa America, or see what happened?
No, I did not. What happened?
So this Copa America, the USA got knocked out in the group stages. We ultimately fired our head coach. Thank goodness Greg Berhalter is gone. But they're playing in Charlotte at the Panther Stadium. And after the game, Colombia won 1-0. There were some fights going on. That's how it goes with the South American teams. Colombia fans fighting Uruguay fans, chanting towards Uruguayan players, Colombia fans, that is. And a prominent player for Uruguay, probably the second most known, Darwin Núñez, striker for Liverpool, that club. He jumps in the stand, starts fighting Colombia fans. So kind of like a little Ron Artest.
I better say Malice in the Palace.
Yeah, okay. He was throwing hands, his own video. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's the only guy with his shirt off, throwing just haymakers at fans. They had to pull him back. It was an ugly scene last night. I saw that last night before I went to sleep. But yeah, I didn't know if you saw that. I was like, of course, the one time the Copa is here in the USA, we got players punching fans. But yeah, that happened last night.
Okay, I did not see that. I'm gonna have to go check that out on YouTube as soon as we get off of this live stream. So thank you for that information. Yeah. That sounds absolutely insane. I didn't know they got down like that, to be honest with you. So
the South American teams different.
Yeah. Speaking about international teams, the Team USA basketball, like men's basketball team, they actually started their campaign last night. They had a game at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time against Canada. The start time sucked. I fell asleep after halftime, but it was interesting watching, kind of like this team with LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Well, Kevin Durant didn't play last night, but LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Jason Tatum, kind of like the first star-studded USA men's national team that we've had since 2012 or something like that.
The
I
one
want to
with
say.
Kobe. That's what I remember. I remember Kobe was on there.
Yeah.
I think Coach K was the coach. I remember I was
Right.
watching Olympics
Yeah.
back then. It was all those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and last year I can vividly remember. I think it was the FIBA tournament where we sent out kind of just second string all-star kind of guys. You know what I mean? Not to take anything away from those guys. We still had like an Anthony Edwards out there and a couple other guys too, but there were a lot of role players, right? NBA role players that were out there, and we ended up getting beaten by Germany. And Germany, I want to say Germany went on to win it. Or they might have lost. I can't remember if they won the final or not. I want to say they lost. But listen, Boz says here, USA basketball is going for the gold. Absolutely. I don't think that they lose a game. I don't think they lose a game in this tournament. Just because, like, what I saw last night, they started off very rusty. Guys just missing shots. But once they warmed up, like after that first quarter, they completely shut Canada down. And defensively, it was just like a block party. You do not see that many blocks in like NBA games. Like it just looked like a mismatch. Like they were just swatting shit like everywhere. And then, guys started knocking down shots. And I think that momentum is kind of going to snowball. And when they actually start playing in the games that matter, of course, Kevin Durant will be back by that time, hopefully. I think it's just going to be all systems go. It's going to be Lob City sort of thing.
Yeah, so, I'm looking at a lot of guys on the team. Like, this is probably their last chance, I think, to win. I mean, personally, I'm not the biggest NBA fan. I don't think the Lakers are going to win another championship with LeBron. I don't think the Warriors are going to. No. So it's like, if you want to get that last kind of hoorah for the championship, this is it. A gold medal, Olympics, no better way, I think, to do it. So I'm right there with you. I don't think they lose a game. I hope it's kind of like the times we see where they're winning by like 50, 60 points. Do it. Just go all in on them.
Yeah, I don't see them losing the game. And, this kind of feels like, again, like you mentioned, this might be like the last hoorah, especially for guys like LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant, guys like that. And just those three names alone, they're kind of like, when you think about it, like the Avengers of basketball, of the NBA, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what this feels like. They're all coming together for one last ride. I guess you can compare it to the last movie, Endgame or whatever, where they caught, that it's going to be very cool to watch. And that's why I was up at 10:30 last night checking it out. But yeah, I agree with you, Boz. I think that USA is going for the gold. Okay. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and leave it there for the question segment in this episode of the Purple Rain podcast, episode 247 of the Purple Rain podcast. We still have about 270 people watching live right now. So shout out to everybody watching live. Thank you so much. Again, make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter or X, make sure you come over to YouTube and subscribe to the Purple Rain podcast YouTube channel, spelled just like how you see up top here. Now, listen, here's what we always do. We got to outro it like this. Manscaped. You can go on manscaped.com, get yourself anything. My guy Alex led the show with it. It's as hot as it's going to be all year. Yeah. This month and next month, it's going to be as hot as it's going to be. So make sure you go to Manscaped, get yourself some of that ball deodorant, right? Get yourself some of that ball toner and get yourself right. You know what I mean? Like that's what you need. I'm telling you, I speak from experience. It works wonders. It works wonders. Not to mention like amazing products like the Lawnmower 5.0 as well, which can get you trimmed up, especially if you're in a hurry to go somewhere, things like that. Amazing product. So yeah, you can use our code PRP, get yourself 20% off, plus free international shipping. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def, like you see down below. You can find this guy over here on Twitter at SimplyAS10 and on Instagram at simplyas10.prod. And if you're listening and you don't know this yet, make sure you follow him on TikTok as well at SimplyAS10. I'm always watching his videos. I think the one that I saw yesterday, which one was it? It was another offensive lineman talking shit video. I can't remember
the guy from the Bucks. He loves talking trash.
Yes.
He loves talking trash.
I just sometimes I wonder, like, bro, where do you get these videos? Like, why have I never heard these, things happen before? So I know you do your digging, but it's just, man, I love the insight that those videos give us. So shout out to SimplyAS10. Make sure you follow him on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. That's the main thing. 100,000 subscribers strong. Make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube as well. Okay. With that being said, again, my name is Sutton Def, and I'm gonna let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through to episode 247 of the Purple Rain podcast. And as always, stay positive. That's negative.
Yes, and never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. This has been episode 247 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys